Hey guys, Kid Aikino here. We've got a pretty wildly mixed bag for this episode as we finish out the wilderness years and get into the beginning of the current kaiju renaissance. First up, we've got Gareth Edwards' Monsters. This one's even lighter on the actual monsters than people would eventually criticize his Godzilla movie for being, but that's pretty understandable when you consider that this movie was made for a little over 0.25% of that film's budget. Honestly, what it achieves with its limited resources is pretty remarkable. Rather than monster spectacle, it's focused a lot more on world building and atmosphere, and the setting created for this film, a quarantine swath of Mexico infested with alien creatures, is both visually striking and wholly convincing. It's easy to see how this film got Edwards the gig on Godzilla. The film's main weakness is the performances by the two leads, playing a photographer and the daughter of his employer, trying to make it through the quarantine zone back to the US. It's not that they're bad actors, but they're not really that engaging either. Ultimately, this film is at its best when these two are just trekking through abandoned Mexican landscapes, simply taking in the sights rather than speaking. The romance subplot between the two is perfunctory and unconvincing, and their dialogue reflecting on their situation isn't that remarkable either. The visual effects, however, were apparently done by Edwards entirely on his own, which would be impressive in and of itself even if they didn't already look great for this film's budget. Next we've got Death Kappa, another comedic kaiju film from Japan. This one probably features the best production value of any film of its type, and it's amusing at times. The story is pretty obviously just thrown together as an excuse for a few key scenes, like the delinquent youths being attacked at the beach, the bit in the villain's secret base, and the second half of the film, which mostly consists of some reasonably well-executed tokusatsu action pitting a giant kappa, a creature from Japanese folklore, against a giant monster. The protagonist in the first half is seemingly killed off when the camp nationalist sect destroys their base halfway through the film, then shows up at the end for some reason to pacify the kappa. The whole thing's a little bit hard to judge because it's so obviously devil-may-care and just kind of the filmmakers fucking around a little bit. It honestly left very little impression on me overall. It's not as bad as something like Monster X Strikes Back, but it's really nothing to write home about. Next up we come to Pacific Rim. It's been tough not watching some of these movies before I come to them in the binge, but sometimes it's worth it finally reaching one of them without it being fresh in my mind and seeing it again. This is definitely one of those times. It shares the kind of affection for its source material you see in a lot of the Japanese wilderness years stuff, but this time the homage is not only carefully crafted but deeply sincere. The kaiju designs are varied and interesting while sharing an overall design philosophy that ties into a reveal about them a ways into the film. You can tell we've gotten to the more recent films now because I'm worrying about spoilers. The Jaeger designs also just have a ton of personality. It's all around just a great looking film. The live action cinematography and CGI blend seamlessly, and even despite the post-apocalyptic setting, the whole thing is full of brilliant, rich colors and strong, inky shadows. It's probably the most gorgeous digitally shot blockbuster I've ever seen. On top of that, the writing is great too. It's not Shakespeare in the sense of like transcendent poetry, but you could kinda make the case in terms of Pacific Rim being expertly and passionately written crowd-pleasing entertainment. Guillermo del Toro seems to grasp that sports movies represent the purest and most distilled form of Hollywood storytelling, and uses their formulaic innovations to full effect. The cast is magnificent too. Charlie Hunnam is very much just playing a generic action guy, but Rinko Kikuchi's arc as Mako is amazing, Idris Elba's presence is fantastic, Charlie Day and Bern Gorman are hilarious, and I'm still bummed we never got more of Ron Perlman as Hannibal Chow. They're all comic book characters, but they're all brought very vividly to life. Pacific Rim is the work of a truly world-class filmmaker who just loves monsters so goddamn much, and I'm so glad he's doing what he's doing, and I'm so glad he made this movie. Next, there's Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. Having kind of internalized the issues with a film, they can kind of come to be your whole idea of the film, which can paradoxically help illuminate its strengths when you come back to it. That's what happened with this rewatch. Yes, Bryan Cranston should have been the lead. Yes, Aaron Taylor Johnson is a bit of a bore. Yes, Edwards likes to tease a little too much. but with a major studio budget behind him, Edwards makes a really great looking movie, and he's got a gift for build-up and big capital M moments. A lot is made of the film cutting away from Godzilla confronting the Muto at the airport, but the whole sequence leading up to it is just immaculate. I do still have my issues with this film, including its take on Godzilla's origin and especially the Castle Bravo H-bomb test, but aside from some aspects of the script, it really is an expertly constructed blockbuster. Finally, we come to Monsters Dark Continent, which, holy shit, might be the fastest a film has ever made me become, actively hostile to it while watching. The very first scene is some soldier guy doing super serious voiceover while shooting a gun with that shitty desaturated color grading. This guy and his friends, a bunch of intolerable shitheads, all join the army and go to the Middle East, where they complain about how hard it is fighting insurgents, while that generic, scary Arab movie music plays. It's literally just a fucking Call of Duty campaign as a movie, just absolutely generic war on terror movie shit, and also the monsters are there. It's a stupid, obnoxious, ugly film, a total waste of time, and isn't the Dark Continent supposed to be Africa? Thank Christ Gareth had nothing to do with this one, good god. Luckily though, we've got a great lineup for the next episode with Love and Peace, Shin Godzilla, Colossal, Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. Until then, big thanks to my patrons, especially Bob Burns, Exploder Button, John Paneer, Kiefer Bielman, and Ryan Clark. You can join them in supporting this channel and the film preservation projects I'm working on at the Patreon link in the description. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.